Councillors, Collins and Councillor Hoddy. Yep. Alright, so item number 7. Is it still there, Chief? I suppose it is.
No, it's not now, but it was when I wrote the report, Your Worship. So, very short report this week, as this month, and as Council Body talked about before, there are no performance or financial reports associated with the report, simply because we were in the annual report month, and so that's a normal thing for this time of the year.
Right.
Next month, obviously, we'll be considering that annual report. So the item is very procedural, and I'm sure that you're aware of all the things that we've raised in there, but the team is here and happy to answer any questions that any councillors may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Green. Any questions of Mr. Green? Councillor Williamson.
So, 7/2, obviously, Manuel was spelt wrong, but that's not the point of the motion anyway. Just with regard to the subsidence on that of the council reserve, was the Waitangi C75 Reserve Trust that they involved with that, or?
Yes, it is their reserve as well, so we've informed them through our strategic relationship process, and we'll continue that as we work through. We've got Tom Taylor just doing some reporting on us for us at the moment in terms of what those solutions may be and what the costs are likely to be. Remember that any works there also needs to be approved by Whakaaro Regional Council as both the consenting authority but also co-funder.
Councillor Stewart.
I'm not sure if this is the right or the wrong place to ask, so I'll ask and you can tell me. But it does mention the community board, so I just wanted to know, at the last meeting, we had a presentation from Tongariro about a feasibility study for Turangi, and I just wanted to ask if it is on track to be on the next agenda.
Yes, it will be. It'll be on the end of August meeting. We simply didn't have time to get it on this meeting, so only a week between the meeting and the close-off, which is 3 days between the meeting and the close-off of this agenda, but it definitely will be on the end of August meeting.
Thank you very much.
Just to
Councillor Cousins.
just to that point, there's been a little bit of a miscommunication perhaps. Tongariro, they getting mixed messages out of council as to how this is all going to play out. And I just wanted to ensure that council are aware that this is meant to be an independent feasibility study, and I wanted it on record that that was the case, because last night, as Maggie knows, I got a call that a couple of people ready to resign from the board over what they feel is miscommunication with council. So I had to do quite a bit of working last night to keep everyone focused and on track. I just wanted to make sure that we are all on the same playing field, that it's going to come back as an agenda item for $55,000, or whatever the cost will be, for an independent feasibility study, correct?
So the report that will be on next month's council meeting will have all the different options, and it will be in line with the recommendations from the board. Okay.
So there was apparently some discussion, and I don't want to get into it too far, but about that we can save money by council running it. That's been discussions that's been had with Tongariro. Is that correct?
As part of the options, as you would expect in any council agenda item, we would explore all the different options in doing that. But it will be ultimately it will be up to you as council.
Sure. Again,
looking back at the community board's recommendation, and which is what this is all about. You've got a board which has made a recommendation.
And that's our thrust, is that the community and the wish of the board is that this is an independent study.
So that's the report that's written will be written around that resolution to give effect to that resolution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, will be an item on the 26th of August, not the end of September.
Correct.
Yeah, just not this month.
This month, August.
Okay.
Very confusing.
We're officially in the July meeting, so it'll be the August meeting.
All right, any other questions of Mr. Green? Okay, so just a resolution there, and once again, thank you, Gareth, for your acting role. And you've been installed, so I'm the very best for that. Please. Moved by Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Stewart. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against. Item number 8, submission on the draft Whirinaki Te Puiatane Conservation Park. Mr. Nicholas Carroll.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and Councillors. I thought you pronounced that very well. As you'll see, this is actually quite a short and relatively procedural item. We put a submission in as officers. We're simply seeking your endorsement. The management plan prepared by DOC is a pretty standard management plan. The one point that we wanted to make was that they'd missed out a few key references to Taupo District Council that we thought were appropriate to have.
And the plan, Taranaki, out this way, is it?
Out Murupara way.
Murupara.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so lovely cabins out there.
So
It's great walks.
we have some land, obviously.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
A few key significant natural areas, but not too many people.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Good. Thanks, Mr. Carroll. All right, there's a suggested resolution here. Can I have a mover, please? The submission to go through. Councillor Krasowski, seconded by Councillor Hickling. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Item number 9. Submission on the proposed national policy statement on urban development capacity.
You're stuck with me again for this one and the next one. We've been in some dialogue with the Ministry for the Environment's officials on this one, and what's patently obvious is the government has a lot of work to do in this area. Minister Smith has put out a proposed MPS, but I think it would be fair to say the officials acknowledged that there was still a lot of background research still being done. So what we're expecting is there will be dramatic change to this MPS once it's actually finalised by the Minister. At this point, it's primarily targeted at those high growth councils, which is not going to include Taupo District Council, but there are some elements of the drafting which is quite poor and introduces some ambiguity. So what we've done is try to highlight those and express our views through the solution. So again, simply looking for your endorsement of that solution.
Thanks. Any questions, Mr. Carroll? Councillor Krasowski?
I support what you have written, but I wonder whether we should in fact also mention that there is a significant high number of absentee homeowners, which makes us somewhat different from virtually all other councils.
Yeah, we had quite a lot of discussion with the officials around that, because one of the definitions that they were, or one of the aspects of the definitions that they were looking at incorporated not only resident population but also visitor numbers. And we pointed out the practicalities of trying to, one, measure that in any meaningful way at a point in time, but two, the challenges of managing infrastructure around that. So we've talked about the definitions and the challenges that those pose for us, given our peculiarities, as you say.
Yeah.
To be fair, they were aware of that because they've had quite a lot of dialogue with Queenstown Lakes who have similar sorts of issues. So it's certainly on their radar.
So effectively you've asked for that to be removed about the increased population that we have in the district?
Yeah, well, we just saw it as one of those areas that introduces ambiguity. It was going to be difficult to measure, and there was no logical reason to have it in there that the officials could actually raise.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, thanks, Nick. Suggested resolution there on 9-1. Thank you, Councillor Freeman. Seconded by Councillor Stewart. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Certainly, yes, all. Item number 10, submission on Local Government Act.
The
Local Services Book.
the government continues its tinkering, and I think you're all well aware that there has been an ongoing agenda with this national government around reform of the local government sector. This is simply another step in that reform. I guess if I was going to sum it up, I would say it's simply some more changes to broaden the toolbox that they've got to consider future amalgamations of council or other alternative collaborative arrangements. And that's why there's a lot of discussion in there, particularly around CCOs. And you will have heard Rob previously talk about water CCOs as being a prime target for the government. But this piece of legislation is not forcing it, it's simply, as I say, creating and broadening that toolbox for government.
Okay. Thank you, Nick. It's gone quiet. Councillor Krasowski.
Thank you. Thank you. Once again, is that look, the Minister has consistently called this proposed legislation an enabling piece of legislation. But he's failing to highlight the fact that it also disables current grassroots democratic rights without providing any guarantees or proof of greater efficiencies, effectiveness or cost savings to ratepayers.
Completely agree.
We can't sort of incorporate that.
Well, I guess one of the things we're always mindful of when we're preparing a submission on your behalf is that you've got both local government New Zealand and you've got Solgan as sector representatives who are presenting information, and we try very hard to avoid duplication of effort. So essentially what you will have seen at the beginning of our submission is we've endorsed our support for those two sector submissions, and all that we've tried to do is add a little bit of a Taupo nuance where we thought there was value in that. Now, both those sector submissions have come down very hard in terms of expressing that grave concern about the undermining of local democracy. So we didn't see a need, I guess, from a Taupo perspective to add additional comment. However, having said that, if that's what you wish us to convey, we're more than happy to convey that to the Minister.
The other thing, Mr. Carroll, would be that we have asked to be heard in favour of the submission, so that would be the sort of verbal discussion that you would also give in front of the committee.
I guess the other thing that I'm looking for is a certain level of comfort that it doesn't undermine our current and future good faith negotiations with Ngāti Tuwharetoa on the treaty settlements that we currently have, whereby we may not be able to deliver on some of the aspirations that we may be agreeing on in good faith at the moment.
That's a rather loaded question, given that we're in a public arena. I guess what I would say is, first of all, the settlement with Tuwharetoa will be protected by legislation. So there'll be a legislative level of protection which won't be undermined by any government changes to the local government. In terms of our ability to deliver on any future agreements, first point is those agreements haven't been reached at this point. And secondly, you will always be constrained as a decision-making body by the limits of the legislation within which you operate. So if the Local Government Act says you can't do this, you won't be able to do that in the future, even if you decide with Tuwharetoa that that might be a good thing to do.
Which is the point that this councillor was making.
Yeah.
And the other thing, of course, is that it may not be over to councils to decide the future, because a commissioner may decide that on our behalf.
Correct.
Which once again brings us back to the democracy issue.
Yeah.
And I won't bother going into Section 27 of the Bill of Rights Act, because you'll probably know that already.
I fully expect the Select Committee will be hearing a very strong message about the importance of local democracy, and I think it will be important for us as a council to front that Select Committee and express that concern.
Through the chair, I think Bernard raises a really good point. While I appreciate your not wanting to duplicate the same point over and over again to the Select Committee, and so we cover it under Solgan, etc. I still think it's of value in what we're elected to do to represent the comments that Bernard's made, and I would like to see them separated out again. Just to labour I think we need to labour the point.
Well, more than
If
happy
my
to.
fellow councillors are happy to do that.
More than happy to prepare you some draft words, which will circulate by email. Hopefully, we can get a consensus on that.
I think they've all been
we'll
said,
forward that on.
yeah, but I think we need to put it back out and just reinforce that that's what we're elected to do. So I think we should.
Because in many ways it could almost be amalgamation by stealth, if you like.
I don't think there's too much stealth involved with the government's approach at this point.
Okay, Nick, so you're happy to go away and with those,
Yes, definitely.
make it a bit stronger?
Yep. But I'm happy with that.
All right, thank you very much. So where are we? Item 10. So suggested resolution there. Councillor Cousins, seconded by Councillor Heckley, all those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried.